First things first, this video will contain full spoilers for the story of The Last of Us Part 2. Just like the game, this video is not meant for children. There will be scenes of graphic violence as portrayed in the game, so if you're squeamish, consider this your trigger warning. My pre-release ritual for The Last of Us Part 2 involved avoiding everything from leaks to trailers to online discussions. Unfortunately, some careless tweets by people I followed did spoil that Joel would die a week or so before the game's release. As such, I played the game about 95% unspoiled, and knowing only that many people hated it before it was released. The Last of Us Part 2 has become a very divisive game due to the outrage over the story leaks, the misdirection in the advertising, and Neil Druckmann's community interactions. I'm not here to discuss or defend any of that. I decided to make this video after I completed the game, and then went online to listen to the discourse, and found that I disagreed with a few of the common complaints about the story. The game is far from perfect. Like many, I do see where it can feel bloated. I find most Naughty Dog games overstay their welcome by a chapter or two. I think it's absolutely ridiculous how many times characters are thwacked in the head like concussions aren't a thing in the post-apocalypse. And while this is something very small, almost a nitpick, it bothered me that this arrow Ellie takes in a short cutscene is not addressed. This is in spite of the fact that the game shows you how beaten Ellie's body is to drive home the point that this mission is tearing her up inside and out. But I'm not here to pore over the game's minutia. I want to talk about the story. I'm not Mr. Story Analysis guy. I had to watch YouTube videos to understand Mulholland Drive, and even so, I'm not 100% sure that I could explain Mulholland Drive to you right now. But for this game, I had a really specific reading of what it was about and why things happened the way they did. The most common issues I saw were that people didn't think Joel's death worked, or that it was only used to shock the player, and that Abby was a poorly written character and irredeemable, and that the ending didn't make sense or was unsatisfying. All three things are sort of tangled around each other, so rather than speak on them individually, I'm going to just offer my overall interpretation. So here it goes. The most damning thing I can say about the situation surrounding Joel's death is that it feels contrived in many ways. Abby meeting up with Joel and Tommy can be explained that she set out to track an armed patrol, but it's very convenient that the patrol ended up being Joel and Tommy. A horde forced them to the lodge, and a blizzard forced them inside. It all coalesces into a fairly convenient set of circumstances. Once inside, surrounded by armed people, I'm not sure what Joel could have done at that point. He is a resourceful survivor, and he is a cautious person, but Joel had no reason at this point to think he was the subject of a targeted assassination. Only Abby knew what was about to go down. Not even Abby's friends knew he was the guy until just before the attack. I suppose, given enough hours added to the game, any dedicated player of The Last of Us could mind palace a plausible scenario where Joel is murdered in front of Ellie and have it not feel like too much of a contrivance. But I'm not sure that would have made a difference. Anything less than closure with Joel's character would have felt unsatisfying, but it's that lack of closure, the horribly brutal and sudden nature he was ripped away, that puts us in lockstep with Ellie's revenge mission. It may have been too effective though, because many people couldn't accept Abby's side of the story under any circumstances. As much as this is a game that's talked up to be about bleak characters, hate, brutality, and violence, I actually believe Abby is a tragic character worthy of sympathy. The murder of her father left her with an unhealthy grief that festered inside of her for years. It shows in her most obvious defining characteristic, her exaggerated musculature. It's way more than that of a standard healthy survivor. It's the type that would require a disciplined, rigorous training regimen. It can be explained away narratively, with her being part of a military-like organization with full access to professional gym equipment and personal trainers. This is more than just an aesthetic, and more than simply practical for a soldier. Her physique is a monument to her obsession with Joel. In the 3-year flashback, we see Abby and Owen are in a relationship. At the end of the flashback, she rejects him. Owen wants a peaceful, romantic evening. Instead, she forces the moment to be about Joel, and uses it as justification to prioritize training.
I know all the leads have dried up, but Joel's still out there, you know?
I know. What can I do?
Let's go back. We can still make training.
We can tell by Owen's reaction that this is not the first time something like this has happened. And sure enough, on Abby's 4-month flashback, we can see that her obsession eventually cost them their relationship. Their lives are still intertwined, and they clearly want to be together, but Owen is moving on. Abby is emotionally stunted from her grief-driven revenge. She's actually only there with information about Joel. As much as they care about one another, Owen is only the second most important thing in her life. Her dedication to sculpting herself into a killing machine was rewarded with gains, not just physically, but with renown among her peers. She has some of the nicest living quarters. She's known by nearly everyone. She's a high-performing soldier that has access to and receives orders directly from Isaac, the leader of their organization. Isaac is likely one of the reasons that Abby has gone this far. Anger is motivating, and it can be focused and manipulated by someone like Isaac. The act of allowing Abby to leave Seattle for her personal vendetta seemed like trust, but it was likely given her to cultivate loyalty.
Isaac's never gonna let that many people go off base.
He already did.
Bullshit.
Who's more about justice than Isaac? He knows what Joel's done.
We see later that he doesn't actually care about Abby as a person once she falls out of line. Abby is deeply, deeply flawed. She is grieving. She is angry. She's pushing away the people that care about her. She's a killer. I believe that she's carried out torture. It's possible to understand who she is without condoning all of her actions. She has every bit of the moral core that Ellie, Joel, and Tommy have. I think it's important to grasp this in order to understand Ellie in this game, and why the ending has to work out the way that it does. The Last of Us has always told its story through symmetry. Many of the characters are mirrors of each other. In the first game, the characters you meet between Boston and Salt Lake City are reflections of Joel's personality. Bill is the survivor in Joel that rejects Ellie and believes that connections and reliance on others is a weakness that leads to destruction.
And in this world, that sort of shit's good for one thing: getting you killed. So you know what I did? I wisened the fuck up. And I realized it's gotta be just me.
Sam is the protector and the fearful parent in Joel that reminds him of the trauma of losing Sarah and foreshadows his inability to cope with another loss.
Henry, no.
Oh my god.
Tommy is the side of Joel that regrets his past decisions and his temptation to abandon his mission.
You want some gear? Sure. But I ain't taking that girl off your hands.
David is a dark reflection of Joel's cruelty and his willingness to make any sacrifice necessary, no matter how unthinkable.
You kill to survive. And so do we. We have to take care of our own, by any means necessary.
It's telling that in this instance, Ellie is the one that kills David, since she's also responsible for Joel's change of heart. So it's through these other characters that we can better understand Joel and the paths that he could have taken. It's the same way we can understand Ellie through Abby. Prior to Abby getting revenge on Joel, she suffered from chronic nightmares in which she experiences the trauma of her father's death. Her conversation with Owen in the beginning tips off that this is a recurring issue.
What were you dreaming about?
Was I talking?
You're doing your teeth grinding thing.
After she kills Joel, it doesn't give her any closure. She still has nightmares. She's still the angry soldier that she was before, and she's in denial about her emotional health. Dragging her friends along has caused them trauma, and they've begun to drift away from her.
You don't think Joel deserved what he got?
I think he deserved worse. I just wish I didn't take part in it.
I get it. What kind of a person could do that, right?
I'm not saying that.
So as badly as Ellie wants to kill Abby, we can see that Joel's murder didn't provide Abby with any satisfying emotional catharsis. You could say that this game is about how violence doesn't solve anything, it begets more violence. Or you can say that this game is about how revenge is cyclical, and what goes around comes around. The old, an eye for an eye makes the world go blind. I think my takeaway of the theme of this game is broader than that. It's that hatred is a burden. It often feels rational and justified, but it's a corruption. It eats its host inside out like spores that infect the brain. Abby may have lived in the end, but she didn't get off lightly. She lost the one she loved, all her friends, her home, and her community. Ellie, in pursuit of Abby, also lost the one she loved, all of her friends, her home, and her community. We can even see this in Tommy. His marriage is falling apart, likely due to his obsession with tracking down Abby. But the thing is, just as we can see through Abby that revenge will not bring Ellie closure, we can also see that if Abby can begin to heal, so can Ellie. Abby was not able to let go of her hate before killing Joel, but she did let go of her hatred for the Seraphites, the people she's been fighting for years.
Scar's built all this?
Seraphites.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. It's pretty cool.
What's cool?
Like, impressive. Awesome.
Yara and Lev saved Abby, and in turn, Abby puts her life on the line to save Yara and Lev. It's not a perfect resolution, but saving Yara's life is the first time that we see Abby as nightmare-free. She nearly relapses trying to avenge her friends, but is stopped by Lev, the last person she hasn't lost or pushed away. She abandons her hate when she has the most opportunity to act on it. And for the first time since her father died, Abby's life is ready to move forward. For Ellie, in the end, the best she can do is to stop hating Abby, because it was too late for her to reconcile with Joel. Over the course of Ellie's story, we learn how Joel's lie about the Fireflies dissolves their relationship, and it eventually becomes standoffish and cold. In the end, we find out they did speak to one another, and Ellie decides that she's open to the process of forgiveness.
I don't think I can ever forgive you for that. But I would like to try.
I'd like that.
Less than 24 hours later, Joel is dead, and they never get that chance. Abby, being a forgiveness surrogate for Joel, is not a failure of revenge. It's an absolution for Ellie's memory of Joel. She's finally able to love him again and mourn him properly. It took Joel 21 years to forgive the world for taking away his daughter to where he could move forward with his life. It took Abby 4 years from the day her father died for her to move on and to start to look for hope. And it took Ellie roughly 3 years from the moment Joel told her the truth to be able to forgive him, posthumously. The image of Ellie no longer being able to play the guitar, walking away from the empty house where her family left her, feels bleak on the surface. Really melancholy. But I think there's a hopeful read to the situation. This might be the first chance Ellie has had for her life to move on since she woke up in the backseat of a car in a hospital gown, full of disappointment and doubt. And then the years of glossing over it all until the truth is forced out and she pushed away the father she loved, and the grudge she held onto until the day he died. It cost her nearly everything, but she has finally unburdened herself of hate.
When you're lost in the darkness, look for the light.
What's that?
Something my dad used to say.